Gray Area talks about sex, relationships, mental health, and more. Our content is intended for a mature audience, and the views and opinions expressed on the show are those of the talent and guests alone and are provided for informational purposes only. We want to talk to you, but this is a TV show, and our hosts are not qualified healthcare professionals. If you're depressed, feel your life is at risk, or need immediate assistance, please seek professional help or dial 911. Gray, and this is Gray Area. Dumbfounded couldn't be here today, so I'm flying solo. But don't worry, because I can do bad all by myself. And since I'm doing it all by myself today, I want to hear about how you all do it by yourself. Our Gray Area foreplay of the day is, how many times a week do you masturbate? You can go on a date with a hand solo, but it takes two to have a conversation. So I do need some help getting this show off to a good start. Our guest tonight is an actor, writer, and comedian. You know him from NBC's Sunny Side. He's done stand-up on Conan and appeared in Shrill, Search Party, and more. Now he co-hosts the podcast Urgent Care. It's Joel Kim Booster.
Oh, hey, I'm Joel Kim Booster. Let's get crazy. Hi, hello.
All they asked me to do was wish them a safe trip back to Florida. Tough for me to do because it's hard for me to wish anyone well who's flying to Florida. That's it. That's what these videos are, really. Goodbye.
What's up, Joel?
It was really tough to watch for me.
It was tough to watch?
Yeah.
Why?
You guys, your team they were like, can we use any of these videos from your social media? And I was like, surely there won't be anything embarrassing on my own social media. And there I am, hoisted on my own petard. So.
Hey, well, we're an open book here, so no judging whatsoever. But I love it. I actually wanted to ask who you were talking about in the Florida clip, if you remember.
I was doing like a bootleg cameo, basically. I was like raising money for this organization like last year or 2 years ago or something like that. And I was basically like, if you donate to this organization, I'll record a video for you or a loved one. And that's basically what that was.
Okay.
I was being extremely rude to somebody who was donating to charity for me. So.
Cool. Well, it's for a good cause, at least.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to ask you our foreplay question of the day. You know, if you're comfortable.
Yes, I'm very excited to answer this question.
How many times a week do you masturbate?
I would say it is a respectable 7. You know, and that's not necessarily averaging 1 a day. Like sometimes you have a free afternoon on a Friday, you know, and you get in a couple. But yeah, I feel bad. Like I grew up in a Toy Story household, so I tend to anthropomorphize everything, and so I feel really bad for my sperm. Oftentimes I come immediately and I say, I'm so sorry, there's no egg for you guys. There will never be an egg.
There will never be.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But you get a pleasure out of it.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I do.
It's fine, totally fine. So, in your Twitter bio, you said, I regret being horny, okay?
Yeah.
But you talk about sex and your sexuality a lot in a very comfortable way, which I love, by the way. But I wanted to ask you, is there a time that you actually regretted doing something because you were so horny?
Yeah, I mean, just like scores and scores of losers and other people. Like, I mean, that's what I mean is that like I make so many decisions with this piece of equipment down here and not this piece of equipment up here. And I should have been murdered several times over. Like the amount of times I've gone over to a stranger's house and like I should be dead by now, without telling anybody. In different countries, like pre-cell phone even, like I've been abroad without a cell phone and gone home with strangers so many times. I should be a Netflix documentary, like the subject of a Netflix documentary about my murder.
Well, I'm glad we could actually laugh about this for real.
Because I'm here,
Because you're here. But it is an interesting thing, and especially as a queer person, like sometimes I, as a woman though, say like, I wish I could sometimes step in a man's shoes because I like to fantasize, of course, but I also see a level of comfort that I feel women don't have.
Oh yeah.
And so it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
It is like all those intersections of like privilege that happen when you're like, it's like, yeah, I'm gay, but I also get to do this and you don't. So,
right.
Which is unfortunate. I mean, you could, but I wouldn't.
Try.
Yeah.
Try. So you also recently tweeted, officially announcing I want a PS5. Help!
Okay. This is something that happened. My friend tweeted a very similar thing, and it worked for him. So I was really just trying everything right now.
I feel like a lot of people were though. But is there a particular game you're looking forward to play?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about the new Batman game where there is no Batman, actually. I'm excited, unfortunately, excited for the Harry Potter open world game. I'm excited for the new Spider-Man.
I forgot about the Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the trailer a while back.
There's a lot about Harry Potter I'd like to forget, but unfortunately, I can't.
Right,
So.
Especially right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Spider-Man game as well, though. But I want to get my hands on the PS5.
Yeah. I don't want to play it on PS4. I want to play it like.
I know, you want the experience.
Yeah, exactly. My friend who has it right now and PS5 and says that it's like playing every PS4 game on Adderall. Like,
yeah,
it's
no.
just,
I watched like play-by-play of comparison of the PS4 and PS5, like just how quick it goes into the next scene. It looks so.
I know.
So you grew up in a very religious household.
Yeah.
You were homeschooled until you were 16. But then you also said that you knew you were gay before you were Asian. So, like, I love that you're able to find humor within all these real life, within your real life. But talk a little bit about that. And, you know, I also grew up in a religious household, partially. Like, my mom was very religious. So I'm wondering if you had a lot of shame that sat with you, or is it something you were able to kind of make your own?
I mean, here's the thing is that, like, so obviously I believe that sexual orientation is baked in to the DNA, but I also think, like, my just interest and fascination in sex is also sort of baked in. Like even before I understood the differences in sexual orientation and stuff like that, I was just always fascinated by sex for as long as I can remember. And shame is learned, you know, and it really was like, I remember like feeling so like interested in feeling no shame about it until I was like 8 or 9 years old, and that's when, you know, it starts to become less cute.
Yeah.
When little kids are interested in sex, and a little bit more like, no.
Yep.
And so that's definitely when that started, and you know, we started, you know, the church started rearing its ugly head in my life.
Definitely.
And, really affecting the way I view myself and my desires and things like that. So it was pretty tough, but.
Yeah, I actually really appreciate the way you speak about your sexuality, because I feel like we so often hear really negative things. And even though these experiences were tough for you, I really admire how you speak about it in a really healthy and natural way, and showing that these are like conversations that we should have and not be so scared of them.
Yeah, because it's the connective tissue that sort of binds us all together. We all have sex, except for, you know, our gray ace brethren. But like, you know, beyond that, I think it's something that we all have in common. And so it's you know, why not talk about it?
Yeah, I feel you also mentioned something. We're gonna get into a game next, but you mentioned something that I could not stop laughing about. That like sex is like a fart. We all do it. I was like, yes, all right.
It's a bodily function, you know? It's just.
By the way, so like I have to share my church religious story, which is, you know, like Sunday school. You have Sunday school, but my mom also forced me going into like these Wednesday night classes.
Youth group. Yeah,
like a youth group. Okay, yeah, a youth group. I was forced to go, and I hated it until they gave us pizza. I was like, oh, can you get away from my mom and eat pizza? And like, all we have to do is one prayer. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty relaxed.
It's a quid pro quo.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like free pizza, can't say no to that. But something you can't do by yourself is play 20 in 60. It's a little game we like to play on Gray Area. So I'm gonna read you 20 questions, and we're gonna see how many you can answer in 60 seconds. Check out our leaderboard right here. 15 is the number to beat.
I think I can do that.
Okay, you ready? Let's start the timer. Hooking up with an ex, good or bad idea?
Good.
Okay. A historical figure you crush on?
George Washington.
Last person you texted?
My friend Bowen.
Would you ever date a fan?
No.
Favorite game of all time?
Elder Scrolls.
What did your parents call you when they were mad at you?
Joel Alexander.
Okay. Most used emoji.
The angel emoji.
Worst habit developed in 2020.
Sleeping too long.
Oh, yeah. First resolution for 2021.
Get out of the house more.
Oh, God, yes. Would you ever run for office?
No.
Would you never tweet again for $1 million?
Yes, absolutely. For less.
Favorite slang for masturbation?
Jerking off.
Oh, yeah. Is it weird to have a pet watch you masturbate?
No.
Can you multitask while masturbating?
Yes.
And you got 14.
Oh, fuck.
The George Washington really screwed you up.
Yeah, it really did. I couldn't think of anyone from history, not a single person. But there is something really, I'm excited about, like, sort of the wooden teeth of it all.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why we always go back to that.
Which I think is a lie, right? I think we've all decided that he actually had, like, teeth that were taken from slaves. So I'm sorry to bring down the energy in the room, but the wooden teeth is false. Yeah.
Damn. All right. Well, after the break, we'll talk about the existential crisis that has been 2020 when we get back, and we'll have some free therapy with expert Liz Folie to help us get through it. Be right back. Yeah.
Every day, I pop on my silly little blue light glasses, walk over to my silly little laptop with my silly little inbox, get silly little overwhelmed a little bit, and check my to-do list, my silly little tasks, have my silly little 8th cup of coffee. Oh, there's my silly little anxiety. I'm gonna pace around on my silly little feet.
Welcome back to Gray Area. I'm here with Joel Kim Booster. Joel, some of the things he classified as silly and little don't really feel
Silly or little.
silly or little. But that being said, can you relate to that at all?
Absolutely. I feel like right now, every single time I get an email, it does not matter what it is about, I sit there and I'm like, how dare they send me an email right now? I can't believe they would have the audacity. Do they understand what's going on in the world right now? Every email is a personal attack on me right now. So yeah, I definitely get that. It is tough to like sit down and try and get anything done right now.
Definitely is. And your urgent care co-host, Mitra Juhari, tweeted, OMG, I just had an amazing creative idea. JK, ha ha ha, OMG, LOL, yeah, right, literally, never again, bitch. I feel like we're all there right now.
That is the mood. That is the mood of 2020, I think. I mean, especially for me, I am getting, it's so weird because whenever I notice someone who's like very funny and I respect and admire have like a bad tweet, I get off so hard on that because I'm like, thank God someone else is struggling right now as bad as I am. It's this weird like creative schadenfreude where I'm just sort of like, oh, at least I'm not the only one experiencing this clearly. Like
we're all struggling. Oh my God. So how are you coping with burnout right now though?
I mean, am I? That's the question. I mean, right now I'm just trying to be as easy on myself as possible because like, you know, I was joking before when I was like, you know, I get off when I see someone who's great and smart, who's doing poorly. But I mean, it is sort of comforting to know that you're not the only one. Like it's really easy right now to sort of get in your head and be like, fuck, I'm the only person, am I allowed to cuss?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank God. Fuck, I'm the only person who is dealing with this right now, and it is like so comforting to know that like the entire world has slowed down a little bit right now in that regard. And so I'm trying to go easy on myself and trying to take some of the pressure off and be like, it will come back. It is like when you're in the gym building muscle, if you lose muscle, your body remembers it and it comes back way faster. It's way easier to rebuild muscle in the gym once you've left. And so I'm hoping that whatever part of my brain that is creative is going to work like that as soon as I get that little vaccination.
I know.
One of those shots.
Oh, waiting for it.
Moderna, Pfizer, I don't care. Give me both arms. I don't care.
All right, well, we wanted to bring back an actual therapist to give some more free therapy to the masses. Liz Folie is an associate marriage and family therapist who specializes in counseling teens, young adults dealing with stress, anxiety, depression, relationship issues, and substance abuse. Welcome back, Liz. Thank you so much for being here.
Help me on the
Hi,
team.
thanks for having me back on. Hi.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we jump into it, we've been asking everyone our foreplay question of the day. How many times per week do you masturbate?
Well, you know, I work with a lot of young men, and it's actually No Nut November.
Oh, yeah.
I have not been observing. I have not been observing.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot
Guilty.
of people have. Yeah.
No, not this year.
No.
All right,
Yeah.
so what are some tips you give to people when they're experiencing burnout? Because I feel like this is just a common thing happening with a lot of people right now.
Yeah. So it's really important to reconnect with the why. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I working so hard? Have I kind of lost sight of my long-term goals, and am I getting too caught up in worrying about like the minutia of day-to-day life? Mm-hmm. My other tip is to clean your room.
Clean your eye, that helps a lot.
It really does.
Yeah, even if it's just like a messy makeup counter, I'm like, oh, it must be cleaned.
Exactly.
It's a healthy,
it helps
organized
clean your
mind. Yeah, definitely. So another common thing we hear a lot about, especially with people that call into the show, is comparing yourself to other people. Do you find yourself doing that?
Yeah, all the time. And I think like right now it's really easy to misremember like your own what was going on with you before, like because I have all these like thoughts about my own creative output right now in comparison to other people, and I have to constantly remind myself that like I was always sort of bad. I was like that's a joke, but like I do think that like sometimes when we're already down, it's really easy to sort of misremember what we were like before this time we're currently living in, and that's really it's centering to kind of bring myself back and be like, oh no, like this is always, we always struggled a little bit.
Yeah,
you know? Like
definitely.
it wasn't always, you know, super easy. So.
And Liz, what kind of advice do you give to patients that find themselves in this position?
So there's this misconception that we can control our thoughts and our feelings. And in reality, we have no control over our thoughts and our feelings. They're really automatic. So it's kind of the workaround is just being really gentle with ourselves, knowing that those thoughts and feelings of comparison are going to show up. And then I like to use a technique called diffusion, which is where I thank the thought for showing up. And then I say, thank you so much. I actually don't need you right now, because right now I'm trying to stay present and connected to people around me. So this comparison is keeping me separate from people I actually want to connect with.
Wow. Is that a like cognitive behavioral therapy technique?
It's actually an acceptance and commitment therapy technique.
So what is it called?
Acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT.
Acceptance and commitment.
Both things I struggle with.
Yeah.
And commitment.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very fascinating. And what do you say to people, you know, or rather, what do you think the long-term effects of all of this anxiety will be on individuals and as a society? I know that's a tough question to answer in a short period of time.
Yeah, I think we're experiencing a collective trauma, and that we're going to see long-term effects of stress, and we know that the long-term effects of stress on the body, because we are such emotional creatures, we hold a lot of history and trauma in our bodies. So we're going to see a lot of stress-related disorders, gastrointestinal issues, heart issues, things like that.
Wow. All right. Well, let's take a caller. David, hey, before we get started, can we ask you our foreplay question of the day, which is how many times a week do you masturbate?
Yeah. I would really love to answer the question, but honestly, after hearing everyone's answers so far, I think my number may be like a little too high. So I'm like,
No,
iffy
come
right now. I
on.
don't know.
No. You're a healthy boy. Look at that head of hair.
All right. You're pulling my hand. All right. So on a good day, in like a good week when I get free time, probably like 20 to 21. I go hard or go home. You know, that's that's my mentality.
You are certainly going hard. I love that.
All right. So what's your question for us?
So recently, within the past year, I've been posting on a social media account at least once a day. And with that comes a lot of things like burnout and things such as that, especially in the pandemic. And as I go through that, it kind of makes it less fun for me. But whenever I have like creative ideas, it's so much more fun. How can I get those creative ideas to keep coming so I keep liking what I'm doing?
Liz, what are your thoughts?
I would say, like, again, really connect with the why, and really look at why you're engaging in this behavior, right? And also don't push yourself too hard. Like, it's kind of counterintuitive because we think we have to push ourselves really hard to get work done. But I would invite you to just like take 60 seconds and meditate and be really mindful of what's coming up for you.
Yeah.
Can I also say too that, like, in terms of pushing yourself, like, no one's gonna notice if you go a couple days without posting. That's my big neuroses, is that I'm like, oh, like if I don't have the same amount of output that I've always had, which is like several posts a day or something like that, like people are gonna think something's wrong with me or something like that. And then that is like your own world that you've created. Everyone is so in their own shit right now that like give yourself some days, man. Yeah. And like it'll feel so much better if you're not forcing it out. It's like a shit. It really is in that way.
Let it come naturally.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
that
thank
just
you.
worries me with an algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't, like your feelings. You can't control it. You can't control it.
Right.
You can't get too wrapped up in the algorithm.
But I hope that helps.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your call. Liz, thank you so much for coming back and doling out some real professional help. We appreciate it as always. We're gonna take a little mental health break, but when we come back, we're making this a menage a trois. Author Gaby Dunn is joining us to talk about polyamory and lots more. Don't go anywhere. On Friday, we have YouTube business sensation Eileen Zhu of Lavender joining us, and that's gonna be our last episode of the season, so you don't wanna miss it. Right now, I'm here with Joel Kim Booster. Last week has been really weird because we had this big cathartic moment. Everybody was celebrating, dancing in the streets, and then everything sort of went back to normal, right?
Exactly.
So following the election, how has it impacted your mental health?
I mean, it's like a Molly come down, right?
Oh my God.
That's what it felt like. It just felt like I was like in the streets, shirts off, like water cannon somebody brought. I don't know, like getting sprayed down with champagne on Sunset Boulevard, like, and now, you know, and then suddenly you look at the COVID stats and you're like, oh right. I should be inside for the rest of the year, it feels like. So yeah, it's definitely been a tough transition to like have a high where it felt like a return to normalcy almost, like in a weird way.
Lit second.
Yeah.
Like let's enjoy the day.
Yeah.
All right, well, we wanted to talk to someone else who's thought a lot about mental health. Gaby Dunn is a best-selling author and the creator of the Audible original Apocalypse Untreated, about a group of mentally ill teenagers during the apocalypse. It's Gaby Dunn. Gaby, thank you so much for being here. Say hi to Joel.
Hey, Gaby.
Hey, nice to see you again.
Nice
I know
to see
Joel.
Yeah, I saw you guys
go way
both.
back.
Oh, you go way back.
Well, to Big Mouth, and then
yeah.
and then you know, just being queer in LA. So
hey, first foreplay of the day.
Go on.
How many times a week do you masturbate?
Not as much as I would like to, or you would hope. I have a partner and we've been together like pretty much every day of the pandemic. We were apart for 4 months. So if you asked me that 4 months, you know, the beginning of the whole thing up until June, I would have had a very different answer for you. But it's not very exciting other than just like we are having sex. I try to save it. Is that weird? To like save it for
Under normal circumstances, I like to save it for a couple of days too.
So you've imagined the world as an apocalypse, which is odd because we're, you know, some days it kind of feels like we're living through one. And in your book, your characters are struggling with mental illness as well. How have the last 10 months for you compared to your book?
Well, I wrote the audio project in like 20 I came up with the idea 2018. I wrote it in 2019.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was not expecting, obviously, a global pandemic. And also we recorded it. All the voice actors came together. We recorded it in February. So right before all of this happened.
So she sort of made this happen.
Yeah, it's all your fault.
Yeah.
And the idea came from, I have bipolar disorder. And so the idea came from what would happen in an apocalypse situation where I don't have access to my medication. Like what would happen, I always think like, if the world ends and I break my glasses, what am I gonna do? If the world ends and I don't have access to Lamictal or sertraline or any of the things that I need to function, what would happen to me? And so that's where the idea came from. And I think like also there's a lot of mental health stigma, right? Mm-hmm. That like in an apocalypse situation, of course, it would be exacerbated. Of course, you would be suspicious of each other because you're not sure, like now that there's no laws, what does this mean? And so I think it's actually been really interesting to have this come out at this time, because I was not anticipating so many people going through even harder mental health struggles.
Definitely. And Joel, I know Joel is very outspoken about you've been outspoken about your own struggles as well.
I'm bipolar as well. And I think like, it's funny because like in this sort of apocalyptic situation, I've had to really come to terms with upping the availability of medication and adding stuff. And like, it's been really hard because it's like, I never needed this before. And my doctors keep having to remind me like, this is not like before though. And I think like, that's a really hard thing to come to terms with, is with your own mental health, is like just understanding that the situation we're in is unlike anything that we've ever experienced before. And
it truly is.
If like one of the ways that you're like holding it together is your routine, and then you lose your routine.
100%. And when it comes to all sorts of mental health issues, that's a constant that comes up. Like the minute, even I know a lot of people with ADHD, like the moment there's a small disruption in the routine, it can just set you off track completely. And a lot of people, these same people also struggle with both ADHD and bipolar as well. So Joel, back in July, you tweeted about being bipolar. I think we had a tweet we're gonna pull up. Yeah. So you tweeted that you were also bipolar, and it's troubling that it's only really discussed on social media as a result of the episodes of high-profile talents. You work, you live, and you're medicated, and you're largely pretty happy because you have an incredible support system. And I think that's key. Yeah. So how did you find your support system? What did that take?
I mean, I think a part of it was like being really honest with people. I think for so long, you try to just appear as normal as possible and try to appear as stable as possible. And then like, it's like holding in like a cup with a bunch of leaks, basically for so long. And I think a big part of that was just being honest with a lot of my friends and being honest with, the people around me, and being like, this is what I'm dealing with, and like, this is who I am. And understanding that like, I'm still bipolar even when I'm stable too, and like, I think that's the problem, is that we only talk about it when people are going through an episode. And so we never really understand that as like a whole human being who's also like has moments of stability and everything in between.
Definitely. All right, well, we're gonna take another caller. And this time we do have Aaliyah. Hi, Aaliyah, what's your question?
So I just got out of a tough relationship myself, and I was wondering, when you go about meeting your partners, how do you set boundaries with commitment?
Oof.
As far as non-monogamy.
In terms of non-monogamy? Oh, well, I think sometimes the biggest problems that I run into is people who say one thing and then act a different way. So they'll say, oh, I don't want commitment, or they'll say, I'm not jealous, I'm never jealous, but then their behavior says otherwise, in terms of like, there's a disconnect and they're not being honest with themselves. And so I think like focusing on their behavior rather than what they're telling you is kind of a hard thing to do, but I have found that it has allowed me to, if they're not honest with themselves, at least for me to see what they're honestly saying or feeling. or the message behind what they're saying or feeling. Because somebody could over and over again say, no, I'm fine with this, I'm fine with this, I'm fine with this. And you know when they're not. You can feel and see when they're not fine. Yeah. So I think like in terms of setting your boundaries, when you set them, you have to be like, part of it has to be like, and you can't be passive aggressive, and you can't not tell me, you can't say things that you, like are not going to end up being true.
And I'm sorry, I missed the very beginning of that. You said non-monogamy?
Yeah, non-monogamy, like, because I don't want to commit to somebody right now. I kind of want to just date, but no commitment.
Well, and I think like there's a part of that that's the part of that that's tough is that like that's a very fluid thing, you know, like you can find yourself in something, and I think like that's understanding the fluidity of like non-monogamy and the amount of commitment that you want to have is just being like, right now I don't want anything, and but like it's tough to like set that expectation and be like, but I might eventually. It's just not, you know, clear, and I think like it's really hard to like be that sort of mercurial type of person and
it's hard to be that, and often it's hard for somebody to hear it as well, but I hope that helps.
That's why I think there should be like a matching of words and behavior. Like, at least for me, like if I don't want something serious with someone, they're not sleeping over. If I don't want something serious with someone, I'm not gonna like act in a certain way or introduce them to friends or family. And I've definitely seen people who will like totally bring someone to like meet their mom and then be like, why are they acting like we're in a relationship? That's so weird. Like,
bad idea. Bad idea. Before you go, can you answer our foreplay question of the day? How many times do you masturbate a week?
Well, since I haven't been in a relationship, maybe twice a week.
Okay.
Pretty respectable amount.
Respectable. All right, well, thank you so much for your call.
Thank you.
Joel, you recently tweeted, I miss having sex with people I don't trust.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest problem with the pandemic for me is that like, I miss like getting chlamydia from a guy I felt I needed to hide my wallet from when he came over, you know? Like that is the experience that is like the lifeblood of my comedy and my life. And so I'm really missing that because now it's nothing can be super casual because it has to be like, when were you last tested for COVID and for STIs? And like, how many, you know, have you been quarantining? Like, what is your vibe, you know? And so it's just like, I miss it being easy breezy.
Yeah.
You know, just getting on one of my many traps online, Grindr, Scruff, one of those things, and just like pulling somebody up and it being like Postmates, 30 minutes and go. You know, like.
So something that you and Gaby have in common is that you're both not monogamous, typically speaking, right? I'm actually a little bit curious, like how exactly, can a polyamorous relationship also be fluid, right? Like, so you have your main partner, but then you bring other people in, or you and your partner are both open?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the type of relationship. Some people prefer relationship anarchy where they don't have a particular main partner and they're just kind of dating around and they have, or something where there's no hierarchy, where everyone is kind of at the same level. Some people prefer the idea of like a primary or secondary, or like, you know, having a main partner and then people around who are just kind of one-offs. And for me, I've always had like a main partner and then secondaries or people who are in and out, pun intended. And so it's been interesting with the pandemic because my partner and I have always, I mean, they would go do like Grindr hookups and I'd be like, have fun. And I track them on my phone just to make sure they're not being murdered.
Oh, okay. So it's something that your partner knows as well.
Yeah.
You're looking
you slipped in.
Yeah, you're looking out
sleeping,
for each other.
Yeah, my partner and I are also non-monogamous, so it's like a fun, like, okay, I have to catch up on a bunch of TV, like I'll just try to make sure that you're not being kidnapped or whatever. But we obviously from the pandemic, we like that all that has stopped, and so like the only thing that's really happening is like digital, like they have some person that they're like texting with, or I have some person that I'm texting with, but like no, there's for the last, we've been like functionally monogamous, but not by choice for this entire time. It is very weird.
Well,
Yeah.
Can I also say too, I feel like people always talk about the rules of non-monogamous relationships, and people who, especially who are not non-monogamous, like get really enmeshed in like, oh my God, but there's so many rules and how do you decide and blah, blah, blah. But that is true for monogamous every monogamous
Exactly.
relationship has its own set of rules too. It's just, we don't get it like enmeshed. I know people who are like, you can hug, you can kiss, you can do whatever with you know, somebody else. And I know relationships like Mike Pence isn't allowed to be in a room with another
God,
woman.
that kills
you know?
me.
Like it's like there's a whole spectrum of rules on the monogamous side too. It's just about communication, always,
100%.
no matter what the relationship, you know, style you have.
Yeah. An unsexy reality of making this show is that we have to take commercial breaks. More talk with Gaby when we get back. In the meantime, quit talking about it and just do it. Play a little game of solitaire down there. Welcome back to Gray Area. I'm here with Joel Kim Booster and Gaby Dunn. And a question we like to ask our guests is, who would you simp for?
Who would I simp for? That's a tough question because I'm not really that kind of guy. I guess Bernie Sanders.
Yeah!
My king.
Yes. How about you, Gaby?
I have a real problem where I cannot look away from Megan Thee Stallion's Instagram.
Oh.
I just can't. I stare and I'm like looking for flaws, or I'm trying to be like, there's none. There's zero. She's just perfect.
I'm with you on that one. I changed my answer from last week. I say Geralt of Rivia.
Who's that?
He's a character from this amazing game called The Witcher. It's a series. And he doesn't say a lot, he doesn't speak a lot, just
Perfect.
white hair, you know, great. So Gaby, when you and your partner are introducing new people into the relationship, how do you set your own boundaries?
My current partner, we have different boundaries. So I'm fine to hear about everything. I'm fine to know what's going on. I'm fine to see pictures of the person. And we've talked about it in terms of like their own comfort too. So they don't want to see pictures of the person. They don't want to hear about it. So it's kind of like just open communication. I know that sounds silly, and I do get frustrated, right? Like I'm like, oh, I want to show you a picture so bad, but like they don't want to see it. So in different relationships, we've had Google Docs, which I know sounds very unsexy, but we've had like Google Docs where you just add as you know, like you'd be like, oh, I didn't even know this was a possibility, but now I don't like it, so I'm adding it to the Google Doc. Like it's just, it depends on the person.
Does it take out the spontaneity at all?
Well, I'm bad. I like to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. So I'll be like, oh, I'm really sorry. I'll add it to the Google Doc, but like I already got away with it.
And Joel, I know you've talked about enjoying hooking up with couples as well. Would you use the Google Doc?
I think the Google Doc sort of takes some of the joy out of the fluidity out of like coming in and out of a relationship. But I'm also never been someone's primary in a non-monogamous relationship. I'm always like a guest star, and which I find it is the best, and it honestly feels like sometimes it can feel very intimate, like someone's letting you in on something that's already there and created, and there's a foundation for it, and it feels incredibly intimate sometimes, and sometimes it can just be, you know, a dip in and out. But either way, I think like it is about communication, and I think an important part of it is like understanding as the third sometimes is understanding when you are somebody that like they want to know, or when you are somebody that they want to disappear into the mist and never see again. You know? Like,
all right, well, we're gonna take a call. We have Ella. Hey, Ella. What's your question?
Well, I am a monogamous person, and my partner is polyamorous, and I really want to be open-minded. for him. So I was just wondering how I can open myself up to the idea of being poly.
Ooh.
It's hard. In a lot of my relationships that have had that have not worked out, some have completely worked out and we just broke up for a totally different reason. I don't think you have to go like whole hog. Like, I don't think you have to be like, I am ready now for you to fuck other people. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes.
For
absolutely.
for you to fuck other people. Like, I think you could start with like, okay, he's gonna like talk to someone on Snapchat, or he's gonna, you know, like, or you could even be like, okay, I'm gonna like, maybe I'll kiss someone in normal times when it's not COVID. You know what I mean? Like, I think like you guys, I think people freak themselves out by going so full in right away, and you like really do not have to. This is gonna sound very specific in whatever, but I had a boyfriend who we just participated with a cam girl together, and then that way you close the computer and you're together, and it's not as scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
It's like the end of a Zoom call afterwards.
Yeah, bye. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Here's $1 million tips. See ya.
That could actually be a good way to test your own limits in a safe way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think also there's a component here too of like, it's not for everybody, and you shouldn't force yourself into it. I you know, it's like it's almost like an orientation unto it. Some people are wired for it, and some people aren't. And I think that's like, if you're not, then like be okay with that, and you know, sort of understand that that's a big part of compatibility. Yeah. And you know.
Definitely.
And it doesn't have to be even. It doesn't have to be like, if he does something, you do something, or like,
that's the
sometimes
worst.
you're just like, yeah, just like not, sometimes you're just like, okay, then maybe the situation is he does what he wants, and you know, like, I don't think it has to be like a tit for tat, which I think is something that couples sometimes fall into accidentally.
All right, well, we want to ask you our foreplay question of the day, which is, how many times a week do you masturbate?
I'm lame, so 0. Sorry.
That's our first 0.
Okay, well, this is
you're
where
not
you
lame.
need to
Come on.
start.
Yeah. You can pump up those numbers, but you're not lame. Come on.
No, not lame at all.
Thank you so much for your call.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, we also have Simon on the line. Hey, Simon.
Hello.
Hi. So we have to ask you, how many times a week do you masturbate?
As much as did it for satisfaction. I'm just kidding, on the weekends.
I love it. All right. So what's your question for us?
Hey, I am monogamous, but I would like to try polyamory. How should I go about dating during the pandemic?
Ooh. I think we're all at a loss for that one right now.
I mean, I think you can talk to multiple people.
Slowly and 6 feet apart.
Yeah, go on dates 6 feet apart. I think you can, if you hit it off with someone, I think you can get tested and then meet up. But in terms of dating multiple people, I think now might be actually a great time to do that, because you can just chat and like Skype sex with a bunch of different people, and like, you know, there's nobody's gonna be like, I need to see you immediately. Yeah. I mean, they probably will, actually. According to my partner's Grindr, people are just doing whatever they want. But I think now is a great time to experiment with how you feel talking to multiple people. How does it make you feel to be FaceTiming multiple people? Does it feel good? Does it feel sleazy? Like, you know, get
comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think some of these conversations can be really difficult if we're not used to having them. It can be a little embarrassing even to bring this up in a conversation. But I always say, you know, it's better to have these conversations at the start of a relationship than months in, because people tend to feel like you've led them on. So I think like taking the time to sort of practice and tell people what you really want and how you feel, you know, and gain that confidence.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for your call.
Bye.
Take care.
As much as needed for satisfaction.
I like that.
I'm gonna be thinking about that for a long time.
That's the right answer.
Yeah.
Well, switching gears, Joel, our producers dug through your Twitter a lot, okay? But they found this one. If you're a bird, you have no business being featured on Blue Planet or Blue Planet 2, probably taking roles from some weird fish that can scream or an octopus that masturbates. Stick with planet Earth unless you live underwater, bitch.
I feel very strongly about my nature shows. I get very confused. Why are there birds on the ocean show?
Well, we love to be educational here, so we wanted to take a different side of Mother Earth, to show a different side of Mother Earth in a game we're playing. Planet Gray Area, all right?
Okay.
So, answer me this. What sexual practice is not found in the animal kingdom? Piss play, cunnilingus, BDSM, or double penetration?
I'm gonna say BDSM, because that's like, everything else is very like physical, you know, like bodily functions, and I think BDSM is a little bit more of a mental game, so.
Definitely. Gabby?
I was gonna say piss play, but now I'm walking it back. You know what? I think because if they're similarly to what Joel's saying, like if they're peeing on each other, how do we know it's for sexual satisfaction? Maybe they just pee on each other. Maybe they got stung by a jellyfish. You don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, the answer is BDSM. So get this. A male giraffe will drink a female's urine straight from the tap as foreplay. Chinese fruit bats are all about going down on the females. A North Atlantic right whale has observed taking 2 dicks at the same time.
Yes, queen.
By the way, those whales have 12-foot penises. 12 foot.
Slay.
But due to the survival instinct to avoid pain, scientists have not found any examples of BDSM in the animal kingdom. Okay, next question. Do any animals use sex toys?
Huh.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that has to be true. Like, they use chew toys. They use,
exactly,
like,
yes.
They understand play,
Yeah.
so I feel like they can
They understand play.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, well, they definitely do. Lots of animals find creative ways to get off, but notably, dolphins use an electric eel wrapped around their penis for pleasure. And female orangutans make dildos out of wood and bark. Ouch.
Yikes. Splinters.
Oh, splinters, yeah.
What is the eel getting out of it?
What is it?
He's just happy to be there.
Maybe, yeah, no idea. Well, last question. which does not happen in nature. Monkeys make sweet love to deer. Female hyenas have a 7-inch clitoris.
Wow.
Banana slugs chew off their partner's penis after sex. Hippos fling shit at each other as foreplay.
I think it's the monkeys and the deer.
I'm gonna say that as well. That's just not natural.
Well, trick question, because they're all true.
What?
Go nature.
No. No.
Yep.
It makes me uncomfortable. That's
Okay,
the first thing that's been said on this show that's made me a little uncomfortable.
This is the slippery slope that the people against gay marriage were talking about.
It is true.
Oh
Pretty
my
soon,
God.
we're gonna have monkeys with deer, and this is all because we legalized gay marriage.
Oh my God. All right, well, Gabby, thank you so much for joining us for all the wonders of the animal kingdom. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. When we come back, we'll get some closing thoughts from Joel Kim Booster about human mating patterns. Don't go away. Welcome back to Gray Area. I'm here solo, but getting it done with Joel Kim Booster as my guest. So we asked you our foreplay of the day. How many times a week do you masturbate? And you guys all sent in your results via Twitch and Twitter. Here's what you said. What? 5% of you said it's a sin? Why are you watching my Twitch streams, man? 37% said 1 to 5, another 37, 6 to 10. All I do is jack off, 21%. I feel like, you know, that's a healthy average.
Yeah. All I do.
All I do.
There are worse things you could do.
There are worse things you could do, for sure. We always have to throw a little humor into those polls. All right, Joel, the world is a bit of a bummer right now, and it's hard not to feel burned out. So, in 4 words, can you sum up how you're taking care of yourself?
Yeah, log off, dumb bitch. That's like my big mantra for myself right now, is because I think like we're all feeling isolated right now, obviously, and it's so easy to fall into this trap of like just scrolling through stories or doom scrolling on Twitter, and it's not the same thing. And I think like for me, this is so like nerdy, but like I organize like a bunch of like Zoom game nights and things like that with people that I can't see. As soon as I've spent too much time on Twitter, like I just FaceTime somebody, like truly, because you think you're getting the same sort of like social engagement from social media. That should be the point of it, but it's not true, and it's toxic. And you know, everybody's gonna use social media, but at a certain point in the day, it's just, you gotta get off.
Yeah, I find actually deleting the app too, so you can't open it, even if it's for a day.
Yeah.
Like today, it's my day. I'm not opening this thing.
Exactly.
Well, I would have to say, screaming into the void. Yeah, definitely helps. Definitely helps. So we joked a lot about masturbation today, but do you feel like it should ever count as real self-care?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think like, I don't know how it is for women or, you know, other people with vaginas, but I know that for me as a penis haver, I definitely find like a sense of cathartic release afterwards. Like it is like sort of like a nice like come down. It's like from a hard day. It definitely does feel like a mental sort of emotional
Definite
release.
Dopamine boost for sure. So what's the silliest thing you've done in the name of self-care? The
silliest thing I've done in the name of self-care is probably I probably bought myself a fleshlight, is the biggest thing.
Okay.
It is the dumbest. I feel so dumb every time I use it. I feel so silly is the perfect word for using, wedging a fake butt into in between your box spring and your mattress to get it in the right angle. Like no one looks sexy using a fleshlight.
They make like jelly things too, though.
Yeah.
Like less.
Now they have like full
obtuse.
torsos. Like they have one now where it's like a full man's necklace or headless torso with a dick and a butt for you to use. And
I love it.
The sex technology has gotten too advanced.
Sometimes too real, right? Sometimes too real. So you talked about, I heard I think it was one of your stand-up routines where you were actually talking about discovering Pokemon fan fiction.
Oh yeah.
So I want to talk about that a little bit because I'm like, when comedians tell jokes, you're like, you know, where is that line blurred?
Yeah.
And you said you saw this fan fiction and it was actually BDSM.
Yeah.
And then that led you to finding BDSM.
Yeah, there was the first piece of pornographic like entertainment that I ever consumed was Pokemon like slash fic, which is like the insider term for like when it's like gay. And it was, I remember very vividly, it was a BDSM with like Giovanni, I can't believe I'm saying these words on your show, but Giovanni, who's like the big bad in like the OG Pokemon world, and Brock, who was, you know, the original hunk rock gym leader. And there was a lot of like Bulbasaur vines and holding down and stuff like that. And like that slowly like led me into finding real BDSM porn eventually, which is great. It's one of my favorite genres.
Well, sure. I have to say, I really appreciate that you're able to talk about these things, your own interests, your own kinks in a very healthy way. Again, I think that's something that we don't get to hear about enough. And you also mentioned that you were working with your therapist and discussing your sexuality and your own interests, and like still being able to share this idea that we can be healthy individuals and still in a safe way.
Yeah.
You know, just because somebody is into a kink doesn't mean they're damaged.
Right.
So I have to say, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you sharing your stories with everybody. So that's gonna wrap it up for us. Thank you, Joel, for coming by and being our guest tonight. Lavender business boss Eileen Zhu is joining us Friday for our last episode. It should be a fun one. And make sure to find us at VENN.tv and check out our uncensored version on YouTube. Thanks for watching Gray Area. Peace.